Is joining me now. Hi, Katerina. Hello. We're starting off with Libération, focusing on London and running once again that shocking image.
Yeah, as you say, once again, this is sort of the only French newspaper to lead with this picture of one of the London suspects from this attack in southeast London on Wednesday. The new terrorists, according to the left-leaning paper. Why do they call it a new terrorist? Well, they look at what they say is the phenomenon of the lone wolf terrorist, which is becoming a more sort of regular feature of the sort of violence we're seeing. Libération say that this is a situation quite close to people's hearts in France. They make a parallel with the attacks in London, with the attacks back in March last year in Toulouse and sort of that in the region by the gunman Mohamed Merah. Now, this was a man who killed 7 people, soldiers, Jewish children amongst the dead there. And he said this was sort of in retaliation for Western intervention in Afghanistan and for the oppression of the Palestinian people, is what he called it. So the editorial sort of draws parallels between that and London, but also draws in the recent Boston bombings, saying that these are more sort of lone wolf style attacks that are getting increasingly common and increasingly difficult to sort of protect the innocent from. They say that frequently you're seeing attackers who are self-radicalised, who are perhaps using the internet as a way to sort of radicalise themselves. And they ask the question, well, if these are people who are getting radicalised in their homes, in their bedrooms, how are you ever going to be able to secure the general public from them if essentially they are unknown?
Okay, next up, Le Figaro with the French president's visit to Germany.
Yes, indeed. He was in Germany. He was guest of honour at the Social Democratic Party. This is the German opposition conference in Leipzig. And Le Figaro, the right-leaning paper, is rather critical of his sort of keynote speech he gave to the party. Hollande waxes lyrical on the German model, is their headline here. And they're sort of ever so slightly scathing, or I say ever so slightly, probably quite openly scathing, because they say that within the socialist president's speech, he was praising the German socialist opposition for meeting halfway and making compromises with the ruling Conservative Party on sort of economic reforms. He said that these were reforms that had enabled Germany to become Europe's biggest economy. And what the paper sort of picks up on is, this is a socialist president who in France wouldn't dare speak words like this. To compromise, what is he talking about? And they actually say it'd be lovely if François Hollande went to Germany perhaps a little bit more often, remembered a few of the words he said there with regards to economic compromise between parties, and sort of brought a few of those home truths back to Paris with him.
Indeed. Meanwhile, in Paris, the IMF head being grilled by a special court over what may or may not have happened regarding this gentleman, Bernard Tapie,
yes,
on the front
indeed.
of Aujourd'hui en France. Very familiar figure here in France.
Very familiar figure here in France, increasingly familiar elsewhere because we've been talking about it a lot. You can see the face of Bernard Tapie. This is an exclusive interview with Aujourd'hui in France where he expresses, I've only got 100 million euros left. This is after, your heart bleeds, I know, Chris. This is after the sort of involvement with the head of the IMF, potential involvement with regards to allegations that she showed favouritism towards Bernard Tapie in a settlement that left him 200 million euros. Christine Lagarde is back in court facing questions today. It's quite a little funny cartoon in Libération where you see her having to make a choice between Bernard Tapie, Nicolas Sarkozy, and Dominique Strauss-Kahn, and she says delete as appropriate, suggesting that perhaps she's ever so slightly doesn't want sort of wiping her hands clean of the whole affair.
Katerina VITTOZZI, thank you very much. That's it for this edition of In the Papers. Do stay with us. Coming up.